Hey everyone, welcome to Walk and Talk, episode number 4, the show where I walk and I talk. In today's Walk and Talk, I'm going to talk about cheat meals. It's a question that I get not all the time, but every now and then someone will ask me. And there comes a couple runners, so I will turn to the side.
Excuse me.
Are you right?
Brother and his girlfriend going for a run, so I joined them to do a walk and talk. Anyways, we're going to talk about cheat meals. It's a question I get every now and then. And it's one that usually initially confuses me because I'm like, okay, what do you mean by cheat meal? But I know when they're asking about a cheat meal, what they're really asking is, okay, how much of a good job do I need to actually do here? And how much am I allowed to kind of get away with? And what I say is, initially try to do the best job you can. The reason you want to try to do the best job you can is because you might actually find out that, hey, this is not so bad, I can do this and manage this. And then you'll build a lot of momentum that way and you'll actually start to see results. Versus on the flip side, you're planning in cheat meals already. You're already planning to kind of not give it your best shot, right? So not quite the mindset you want. You don't want to be trying to think like, oh, I'm dreading this week. I just can't wait to get to my weekend where I can have my cheat meal. So perhaps not the best approach, which is why I usually turn that conversation a little bit into like, okay, this is the steps we're doing. So for example, if we're, I don't know, making some sort of rice bowl or like a quinoa bowl, it's like, how many times during the week can we try this? Okay, that's 3 times there. That's 2 times there. How many times can we have this for breakfast? Okay, Monday would work, Wednesday would work, Thursday would work. Okay, that's 3 days here. And this way we just try to squeeze in enough on plan type foods and meals and let the lifestyle start transforming that way. Some people like specifics. There's a lot of different numbers that I'll use depending on the client and what their goals are. You might have heard that 80-20 rule. That seems like a good line. It can be a good guideline depending on what your goals are. But if we're being honest, 20% is a lot of calories still. And depending on what those calories are, that can turn your diet quite unhealthy. If you do the math, 20%, someone eating 2,000 calories, that's about 400 calories. That's quite a bit, right? That's definitely gonna have a pretty significant impact. So instead, usually a number I'll throw out there is like 90% or 95%. The 95% is actually a number that Dr. Lyle, psychologist who I often refer to, uses quite often. And mathematically, it makes a lot of sense. So if you think about 95%, the example he uses is if you're eating 3 meals a day, 3 times 365, it's about 1,000 meals in a year. If 50 of them are absolutely terrible meals, thanks, I don't know, fried chicken, French fries, well, 50 out of 1,000 would be 5%, right? And those 5%, even if they're unhealthy, this shouldn't sabotage you for the most part. Just because those 50 meals is once a week. So in some ways, you could do a cheat meal once a week because that would be less than 5% your calories. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and pretend, oh, look how gorgeous it is. There's a little bit of water running here to the right. And yeah, just absolutely gorgeous day. This is why I couldn't stay inside and record inside. So my brother and girlfriend, they're going for a run. I was like, oh, I want to go out. Okay, so back to that 5% number of 50 meals. Those 50 meals, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not going to be the best thing for your health. Longevity wise, what does that mean? It doesn't mean, because the other meals, the 95% we're saying are healthy, it doesn't mean you're going to get heart disease or type 2 diabetes. You might end up promoting a little bit of cancer growth. You might end up dying, I don't know, 5 months before you're supposed to, 6 months before you're supposed to, depending on the meals. Maybe, probably not even that, to be honest. Maybe you die like a month before than you're supposed to. Maybe it's the equivalent of a few drinks a week, a few cigarettes, living a sedentary lifestyle, visiting a city every week that has a lot of air pollution. Probably similar effect size for that. So that 5% can be a bit of a good guideline. Okay, so there's a lot more in this area, so I'm hoping it still picks me up pretty nicely here. That 5% number also makes a lot of sense, not even just looking at your meals, but your day-to-day, right? 5% of 2,000 calories is 100 calories. 100 calories for eating healthy for 6 days would be 600 calories, so that would buy you sort of one cheat meal eating out that once a week, which as we look over the year, would end up being about 50, 52 meals. 5% is also a good guideline because it eliminates a little bit about the social cost of healthy eating. This isn't something that I've talked in great detail. I briefly mentioned in my diet versus Ozempic video. Eating healthy does have a social cost to it. People don't always want to admit this, but it's there. Eating out becomes incredibly difficult. Eating at restaurants becomes difficult. You may not get invited to social gatherings at restaurants, and you may be feeling guilty when you do eat out, or twiddling your thumbs when you're sitting at some wedding and you realize that, oh, nothing here is quite healthy or fits my definition of healthy. So that 5% lets you enjoy those social gatherings without it necessarily influencing the bulk of your week, your work week, when you're at home, right? And that's a very important distinction to kind of have, and a nice little boundary to have. I don't do this anymore, but when I used to go on vacation, I'd give myself free reign to eat whatever I want. The reason I don't do it anymore is because in Europe I went over the top with it and I felt like absolute crap. So I said I'm kind of done with unhealthy eating for good, even on vacation, and I've become more of a health nut since then as well. Jumping back to that 5% because I go off topic too much. For that 5%, as I go up this hill, it's actually quite a steep hill, and my heart rate starts to climb with this ruck pack. 5%, 100 calories. That means as soon as you add a tablespoon of oil, 120 calories. Little to no satiety with the 120 calories. That means you've already broken that 5% limit. So that 5% is incredibly difficult. Sounds kind of easy. Okay, bulk of the week, I eat as healthy as I possibly can. Then once a week, if I have a celebration, restaurant dinner, I eat a little unhealthy. Splurge a little bit, enjoy, indulge. But in reality, that's incredibly difficult. You might be able to make it work, and if you do, that's great. But the reality is that 5% quickly spills into 10%, 12%, 15%. 20%, 25%, which is why I say when you're getting started, just do the best job you can, build some momentum, see some results, because you're going to discover how much you can actually get away with in that process. As I mentioned before, I have skinny genetics, so I've gotten away with a lot. I've shared how I used to go through a bottle of olive oil a week, used to binge on a lot of chocolates, a lot of unhealthy snacks, a lot of donuts, but I know most people don't have these genetics. And even if earlier in life you're able to get away with a little bit more, it's still doing harm, it's still causing damage to your arteries, blood flow wise, it's still contributing to weight gain, still contributing to aging, which is why these things catch up to us and why it's so important to take care of ourselves. The earlier, the better. So for cheat meals, get clear about your goals. That eating out once a week, probably not gonna kill you per se, but it does add up and it does slow down any progress or results you are looking to experience. So give it your best shot. Life is absolutely beautiful, surrounded by a lot of life in this beautiful park. This is again, Delta BC Watershed Park, my favorite place on this planet. Absolutely love it here. Don't waste life seeking simple pleasures from food. That's not actually a lot of happiness. It's a very short state reward that we experience. That bird is very loud. I hope you guys can hear it. There's much more greater joys and rewards to experience from eating and living a healthier lifestyle. That's all for this walk and talk. Thanks for listening, and hopefully you were out for a walk as well. See you on the next one.